Hey guys, I'm doing something different for this video. Oliver Harper is making a new documentary about 80s and 90s action heroes that looks really cool, and so to help that, we collaborated on this video that's about to follow. I hope you enjoy, and make sure to check out Oliver's Kickstarter campaign.
If you are a fan of 80s action movies, then definitely check out the Kickstarter campaign for my first feature-length documentary, In Search of the Last Action Heroes. The film charts the rise and fall of the 1980s action movie genre. We'll reveal behind-the-scenes footage, exclusive insights and uncover stories never told before by the people behind one of the most iconic eras in cinema. We can only make this project happen with your support, so come and join me on this adventure back in time. Check out the link to our Kickstarter page and discover exclusive limited edition rewards in the description below. Continuing the theme of top 10s in conjunction with my Kickstarter campaign, I asked my audience what was their favourite female lead or supporting character from 1980s and 90s action movies, and talented YouTuber Rossatron is helping me find out.
Hi there Oliver, thanks for having me. This is definitely a subject close to my heart, so the chance to give another shout out to these badass women is always welcome.
Ross and I got great feedback from our followers. There were some predictable suggestions for the top 10 and some nice surprise choices as well. With modern cinema now championing female superheroes, people often forget women were kicking ass years ago, and in some cases without the help of superpowers or CGI. Now I will leave you in the capable hands of Rossatron to get this list started.
Grace Jones as Zula from Conan the Destroyer. Conan the Destroyer is not a good film. The original is an absolute classic, but this tamer follow-up is lacking in pretty much every way. Where it does shine though, is in some of its supporting characters, and that is nowhere more obvious than in Grace Jones's Zula. Zula is the real epitome of that, now I feel kind of misunderstood, strong female character trope. She is strong, but that's not all that defines her. She has something more to her, something behind her rage-filled eyes that you feel comes more from Jones than anything the writers had ever intended or thought about. The way she shuts down a creep's advances, her smile at being free to fight for herself, finishing the job on her own, proving through her own steadfast belief that a woman can be as powerful as a man. If anything, she elevates the film, simply by bringing a real edge and rawness to what is a pretty thankless role. She is a striking presence, not just in terms of looks, but in how she shines as bringing something truly charismatic and so much more genuine to a film bereft of either of those qualities. Her character pays off quite wonderfully by inspiring other women in the story, and then undoubtedly, those watching the film.
Suppose you set your heart on somebody. What would you do to get him?
Grab him!
Jamie Lee Curtis might have tackled Michael Myers in Halloween, but now she tries her hand at counter-terrorism. In True Lies, she plays a repressed housewife who is always left waiting for her husband Harry, played by Arnold Schwarzenegger, to return home. Unbeknownst to her, he leads a double life as a secret agent. After being accused of cheating on her husband, Curtis explodes in a fit of rage, unleashing her anger in a striking blow, demonstrating her untapped strength and confidence. As they battle the bad guys, Jamie Lee holds her own against the terrorists, and even her husband, knocking him down with a well-placed and well-deserved punch to the face. During the epic action sequence, as the bridge is destroyed by fighter jets, Jamie Lee performs her own stunt, clutching onto Arnold's arm as she escapes from the limousine, which plunges into the ocean. After this climactic ending, her character becomes a fellow agent and joins her husband on his missions to save the world. Such a shame we never got a sequel.
They're gonna shoot us in the head, or they're gonna torture us to death. Or they're gonna leave us here until the bomb blows up.
Sharon Stone as Ellen in The Quick and the Dead. The Quick and the Dead is not a favourite of mine, but I can never not enjoy some 90s Sharon Stone, and the energy Sam Raimi brings to anything, let alone a western, is something to be relished. For me, Stone is the highlight of the film, and though at the time maybe she was considered lesser as a western hero since she was seen as never having the same gruffness as an Eastwood or Bronson, watching it nowadays you feel more that she wasn't trying to be that kind of hero. Her more affected character, one that finds it sometimes difficult to take a life, gives her a bit more depth than they could have gone for. She doesn't feel like a typical male character, gender swapped, but instead a character with a bit more thought put into who she is. With a pretty horrific backstory, the impassioned hatred in her eyes, and how she is framed as a hero within the film. She's her own kind of Western badass, with an absolute killer final duel scene. As memorable for how she plays it as for Raimi's stylistic flourishes, this perhaps lesser Wild West flick is worth seeing alone for Sharon Stone at her best.
You're pretty.
You're not.
I need a woman.
You need a bath.
At number 7 we have Vasquez, a woman you don't want to piss off. Jeanette Goldstein had some experience with bodybuilding, and her physique and attitude makes her just as tough as the other Marines in her team. At only 5'2", don't let her height fool you though, as she's probably the most gun-ho when going into battle. She is synced with the smart gun and is the first out of the team to ignore the commands of her flaky superior, and decides to unleash hell on the aliens. As her team crumble around her, she stays cool and calm, but you know she's just as terrified as the others, but never shows it. She stays focused even to the end when she is out of ammo. She joins Gorman as they take their own lives to help save the others.
Hey Vasquez, have you ever been mistaken for a man?
No. Have you?
Oh, Vasquez. You're just too bad.
Geena Davis as Samantha Kane from The Long Kiss Goodnight. The Long Kiss Goodnight still feels like a forgotten film, one that never achieved what it really should have. I feel that too about Geena Davis, for whom this film might be her finest hour. And when you've got stuff like The Fly on your filmography, that is a big statement. She absolutely sells both identities of the lead and delivers Shane Black's firecracker dialogue with aplomb. Davis did a lot of her own stunts on this film. She learned to use weapons. She worked with a real undercover agent. She went all the way to prove that she could do this, and it shows. For a character being dragged around by people who know way more about her own situation often than she does, they did a good job of letting her defeat obstacles through her wit and physical prowess alone, such as jumping from the window with Jackson and escaping the torture sequence to defeat Morse. She really is a genuine hero, and like all of the women on this list, she is once again helping prove that there really aren't any differences when it comes to men and women in action cinema. Black lamented its box office failure, and wondered if it may have worked better had Geena Davis' character been a man. But the fact that it played so well with the loving mother stereotypes and gave the underrated Davis a chance to play against that makes the film work so well. This is an underseen classic, and if you haven't got round to it yet, give it a go.
Uh-oh. You're seeping. Here. Look at this.
Oh! Shit!
At number 5 we have the awesome Nancy Allen. The role of Anne Lewis was a massive change for her. Previously she was often cast as a bitchy teenager, made famous by the horror film Carrie. She got her break and moved away from her established persona to play a new character. Lewis has more balls than most of the cops at the station. She doesn't take shit and is not afraid to speak her mind. Her first introduction to us shows her kicking the crap out of a thug, with a well-placed kick to the back and 3 punches to the face, and is teamed up with a new cop on the beat, Alex Murphy. Soon after getting to know Murphy, he is gunned down by Clarence Bodiger and his gang, and is resurrected as RoboCop. Lewis quickly clocks on that it's Murphy, and she fights to make him remember who he really was, and remains loyal to the end. Lewis thankfully isn't played as a love interest, but a good friend to RoboCop. This is the kind of partner you need when fighting crime.
I got him, Clarence! I got him!
Cynthia Rothrock. Where the other women on this list prove you can act like an action hero, Cynthia Rothrock actually is one. Not only is she one of the most famous Westerners to make it in Hong Kong action cinema, which is no mean feat, but she also holds 7 black belts in various martial arts and won the World Championship in empty-handed and weapons forms 5 times in a row. That is pretty damn impressive. and she has not been starved of opportunities to show her skills on the big screen over the years. There wasn't any one choice of Rothrock roles in the votes for this list, but there was a hell of a lot of simply Cynthia Rothrock, and I get why. She never hit the level of stardom as much as, say, Michelle Yeoh or any of her male counterparts, and not one of her roles really stands out. But watching her collective fight scenes back, you really see so much talent and power that not to include her in this list would be insane. Yes, Madam is probably my personal favourite of her appearances, or at least the one I've seen the most and enjoyed. I mean, seeing her and Michelle Yeoh kicking ass like this is never not going to be memorable, and she was a big part of why No Retreat, No Surrender 2 works for me, which is otherwise a slightly disappointing sequel to the first. Her American work in general suffers when compared to the earlier Hong Kong stuff she did. I have a lot of affection, say, for Lady Dragon, but the two China O'Brien films, for example, just didn't know how to utilise her skills as well. It feels very standard of that era low-budget action stuff. She isn't that great of an actress, admittedly, but she can absolutely destroy it in the fight sequences. She's had a few roles recently that haven't quite lit the world on fire, but she obviously still has so much to offer, and I hope we see a lot more from her very soon.
You can't just leave. Patty promised us a show.
Shit.
1999's The Matrix saw another leap in computer-generated visual effects. We were introduced to the mind-blowing bullet time sequences that blew everyone away when they first saw it, and the first time we see this effect is in Carrie Ann Moss's introduction as Trinity. This role made her a superstar. Very little has been revealed about Trinity's original life, not even what her real name was. Trinity was apparently a well-known computer hacker at one point, famous in underground circles for hacking the IRS database. Trinity is a softly spoken woman who may appear harmless, but can break your arms, shoot you to bits, and jump through windows faster than a speeding bullet to make her escape. Carrie had no experience in martial arts, but trained intensely to take part in the action-packed fight scenes, and she succeeds on all levels. Even though we also see Trinity as Neo's love interest, this never distracts us from her character or her achieving her mission.
I believe Morpheus means more to me than he does to you. I believe if you are really serious about saving him, you are going to need my help. And since I am the ranking officer on this ship, if you don't like it, I believe you can go to hell.
Sigourney Weaver as Ellen Ripley from the Alien franchise. Ellen Ripley. What can I say, really? The ultimate warrior woman. Defeating odds so stacked against her that it's utterly glorious, right? Well, personally, I can never fully accept her as she is in the second film, which of course is the one that came out in the 80s, whilst Alien is a film in the 70s, shouldn't really talk about too much, based on just how utterly fantastic she is in that first film. I imagine this will be controversial, but Cameron changed her from a very much real person to sort of just another gruff veteran. To soften this harder version of her, they make her a mother. To me, that always felt a bit obvious, a bit cheap. It does add a potentially interesting dynamic with her being a mother, fighting a huge alien mother, but then seeing her roast the Queen's babies kinda pushes against that. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. Right, I got that out of the way. In the end, I can't actually really fault Aliens objectively, and the unique Ellen Ripley of Aliens is fantastic. I love how little she wastes time, how she stands up for herself, how she fights for what she knows is right. And come on, with lines like this, how can she not be a badass? Alien is my favourite version of the character, and I have a real soft spot for the underrated third film, as I feel they took elements of that first version of the character, elements of Aliens, sort of drove them together into this hard as nails, but sensitive and a little bit further drawn version of the Ellen Ripley we love. But I can't deny that that Ripley of Aliens is an absolute warrior.
I say we take off and nuke the entire site from orbit. It's the only way to be sure.
Fucking A.
No real surprises here. Most of us love the Terminator series, and Linda Hamilton as Sarah Connor was everyone's favourite female action star. The first film, Sarah Connor is introduced to us as a normal woman pulled into a bizarre situation, and if she doesn't cooperate, could bring about the end of the human race. As she battles the Terminator in a factory in her weakened state, she shows her true strength and calling and destroys the machine. Come Terminator 2, she is hard as nails and focused on destroying Cyberdyne systems that will eventually develop Skynet, the AI that will wipe out humanity. Terminator 2 is often regarded as one of the best sequels ever made. It demonstrated so clearly how dedicated Linda was to the role, as she got in fantastic shape, showing this massive transformation Sarah Connor took on from her humble beginnings in the original film. She turns into a Terminator herself. When she decides to kill Dyson, she is calculating and cold. She is on a mission that is bigger than her or his life, and she will not stop, as she guns down his house and breaks in and shoots him. When face to face with Dyson, she realises what she is doing is wrong and pulls back from killing him and returns to her human side, and that sense of guilt takes over. She gets so close to defeating the T-1000, having no fear in taking on this advanced killing machine. If only she had one more shotgun shell.
Good morning, Dr. Silberman. How's the knee?
Fine, Sarah. She stabbed me in the kneecap with my pen a few weeks ago.
I hope you enjoyed the list, everyone. As mentioned at the beginning, this was chosen by our viewers. We did get some great suggestions that didn't quite make the top 10, I'm afraid, so don't blame me or Ross. Please do check out Rossatron's channel if you're not following him already. He provides great video essays on many of the action films we loved growing up, and even more recent releases. Look out for the next top 10 video on video games based on movies. This video will have help from Kim Justice, Slopes Game Room, and Larry Bundy Jr. Don't forget to check out the Kickstarter. You can find the link to the campaign in the description below.